Hey, good afternoon. This is Richard Hsu, host of Hsu Untied. Today, I'm very pleased to have with me as my guest Liza Brann, who's a partner at Paul Hastings. Liza, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you very much, Richard.
Now, Liza, you have one of the more unusual backgrounds, as I noted, and I see that you were an electrical engineer in college. Tell me a little bit about why you chose that major in the first place.
Well, I always liked math and science,
Uh-huh.
dating back, to my earliest years. And I come from a family of engineers. My father was an engineer. My mom was actually a math professor at a local community college.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I have a very strong background in those areas. So I actually went around through a number of different things I thought I wanted to be when I was in grade school. Um, Including potentially a math professor like my mom.
Uh-huh.
But the idea was just that engineering was more practical. There are just more options available for engineers. And so it was like the best use of my math and science strength.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Well, what kind of engineer were you thinking about becoming, or did you have any work experience or anything like that?
No, not really. Nothing really in engineering. I was originally interested in biomedical engineering
Uh-huh.
and thought that I would like to do something related to medicine. And I was on the bioelectronics track at my university.
Uh-huh.
And then again, I always have a very practical approach to my decisions in life. I realized that, electrical engineering would offer up the most opportunities, that you could do all the bioelectronic stuff that I was studying, but you also could do things that were completely unrelated to that.
Yeah, right.
So I made the switch into electrical at that point.
Uh-huh. And then after you graduated, did you work as an engineer?
I never worked as an engineer except for some summer internships. I also had in the back of my mind from, I guess it was probably in high school,
Uh-huh.
I had my uncle never had children of his own. So he would always suggest things to me like, oh, Liza, I was thinking you should do this or you should do that.
Uh-huh.
And once said, oh, I have a friend who's a patent attorney and they really love it. And so from that, I was probably like a sophomore in high school. So I was like,
Uh-huh.
that sounds like kind of a cool thing. But then
Huh.
I went to engineering. And then at my university, they had a required course where they had alumni come in to talk about what they were doing with their engineering degree. So they had a woman who was a partner at a firm in Milwaukee come in and talk about being a patent attorney. That just sounds perfect. I mean, I love math and science. I love writing. It's a great combination of the two.
Huh.
So
Interesting.
I had, internships at General Motors in the summer when I was in college and, had a great time, but just felt like there was something more for me out there. So I thought I would go to law school.
Interesting. And how did you like law school? Did you like it? I mean, you thought you made the right decision instantly, or what was your think?
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, again, I have a lot of different interests in life. And so I really loved law school, just the broad range of topics
Uh-huh.
that we were addressing and thinking about.
Uh-huh.
So, I had, of course, take all the standard 1L courses, but then I took, a lot of additional things too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was great. It was, I think, probably like my three happiest years in school were in law
Yeah,
school.
interesting. Now, you obviously went into patents, obviously, I know that, but did you at any time during law school think about trying other areas of law or maybe even becoming a transactional lawyer? Did you dabble or think about any of those options?
No, I was pretty single-minded about
Okay.
IP.
Uh-huh.
And I think I realized that it was somewhat unique, as you mentioned, to, be an engineer in the law. And
Totally.
so I knew I had that background. So I thought, I should use both. I should do something that would allow me to really use engineering and legal training
Uh-huh.
together.
Uh-huh.
And so I didn't really waver from that. I do other things. I do like pro bono work that's not IP related. So I do other kinds of law from time to time, but really IP has always been the focus.
Hmm. Now, you're a patent litigator, but did you ever dabble in any patent prosecution? Of course, a lot of engineers do that.
Very, very briefly. I wrote a patent application when I was maybe a first or a second year associate.
Okay.
And it, I mean, it's great work. A lot of people really love it. It just wasn't really for me.
Yeah.
Um, it was one of the things I love most about my practice is I love working on teams and I love um, leading teams, managing teams. And that's not really the kind of work that you do in patent prosecution.
For sure, for sure. Well, give me a feel for the ranges of technology you've worked on. Obviously, you've been doing it for a number of years now. Give me a feel.
I've done a lot of different things.
Uh-huh.
My very first case, like the first day of practice, I was put on a case related to like a permanent contraception device for women. So that was my first one. That was a little bit of surprise, although it did draw on like my biomedical engineering training, so it was a good
Yeah.
fit. Um, so I've done that. I've done a lot of work related to smartphones.
Huh.
Um, that's probably like the most that I've done is like various aspects of smartphones, the different software, hardware that would be within them. And then I've also done, similar to my first case, I've done other more life sciences oriented stuff. I handled a large case for Align technology that went on for about 9 years,
Oh, wow.
related to Invisalign.
Yeah, right.
So I've worked on that. I've done bioprinting. Um, I've really done a wide variety, semiconductors, so really almost anything. I've not done much pharmaceutical work, but other than that, I think I have it covered.
Do you feel like you actually get to use some of your engineering degree or your knowledge?
Absolutely. I mean, over time, the nature of that has changed.
Uh-huh.
But, initially, I would say definitely. I remember I had a case relatively early on that was probably the most difficult technology in terms of how just understanding what was going on. It
Yeah.
related to Fourier transforms.
Oh, right.
um, which, or when I was in college and learning about Fourier transforms in engineering classes, I didn't really understand why anybody would ever want to think about that. But in that case, we were talking all about the frequency spectrum of a signal. And so absolutely, I was happy that I had that strong background in engineering for that one. Um, but at some point, I don't know if you ever had this experience, but at some point I did the math and realized that the patent filed on the day I had graduated would have expired already. So it's like now the stuff that I'm learning about is like by definition, things that were invented after I graduated. So
Yeah.
it's really more just the ability to understand technology
Do you
that
think
I use today.
do you think your clients can tell, or does it ever come up that you have this engineering background when you're talking to them or with other experts maybe?
I think so. I mean, from
Uh-huh.
time to time, they'll comment that I understand the technology,
Uh-huh.
and that I'm able to discuss it with them. Um, so, I mean, I hope they think I understand it.
So it sounds like you feel like you made a very good career choice. You were able to blend engineering with something else that you really like. I mean, how do you feel about it now?
I think it all, it was a very smooth path for me. From time to time, I'll be on a panel of people talking about how they became an attorney and they
Uh-huh.
have a very, circuitous path. And I'm, I guess, the boring one on the panel in that respect, where I'm just like, well, I thought I wanted to be a patent lawyer. I went out and I became one. And here I am 22 years later, I'm still doing it.
Does your
Um,
uncle does your uncle get any credit for planting that idea of being a patent lawyer in
yeah,
high
he
school?
definitely does. He definitely does.
Well, Liza, it's been a fascinating conversation. I really appreciate your taking the time as an engineer. I love hearing about other engineers who became lawyers, and so I really appreciate your doing this.
Oh, absolutely. It was my pleasure.
This is Richard Hsu and Liza Brann. Thanks.